So Elizabeth and Ray, so I've been tracking the council members joining. Everybody's on, it's except Helen and Emmett, and I do not recall if they said make it.
I just got a text message from Emmett that said he's going to join us here in the conference room, and but he's going to be a little bit late.
Okay.
I have not heard from Helen, but I think we can go ahead and get started. Ray, do you want to get us started?
Sure. I was just going to dive right into the amendment in my program, Elizabeth, if you wanted to say a few things first.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I misunderstood on that.
It's all right.
We'll just do some introductions here. Thanks for everyone for being online for the meeting tonight. I'm Elizabeth Erickson, the chair. We have John Sesso, Don McKee, Brian Lynch, and Dave Williams on the phone. Myself, Sister Mary Jo, and Bill Callahan here in the conference room. And we're expecting Emmett here in the conference room also. I hope I didn't miss anybody. If I did, yell. All right, we're here tonight to talk about the BAO Restoration Plan 2020 amendment. The staff is going to go over the amendment that we put together here. We'll have some questions from the council and discussion, and then we'll go into a motion and public input, and then the final will be the BNRDC recommendation for or against the amendment, and additional public comments, and that's all we have on our agenda tonight. This is an action item. We do have a quorum, and we will be voting on it. With that, Ray, I think you can go ahead and get started.
Okay. Can you guys see my PowerPoint and only my PowerPoint?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. So yeah, as I appreciate you all being here, Madam Chair and BNRC council members. This is Ray Vinke with the Natural Resource Damage Program. All of well, our most relevant staff are on the phone. Both Doug and then Harley and Miranda and Jim. I'm presuming. I don't think that Catherine was able to make it, but
yeah, I'm on.
Oh, good, great. Thank you, Catherine. I apologize I didn't see you on. So, all right. So I'm going to be discussing a proposed 2020 amendment to the Butte Area 1 Restoration Plan. This was a team effort with staff members as well as the BNRC, and I guess I'll be walking through the plan. It's also summarized. This is just a summary of what you have for written material. With that, I'll move forward. So at this point, I think it's most convenient, given the distance way that we're communicating here with teams, if everybody just holds your questions to the end, probably. So, all right. So just a couple of reminders here that this meeting is being recorded, so everything that we say will be captured. We ask that parties not use your video, as it will just slow things down, potentially bog up the presentation. And if you do want to make a comment during the presentation, that's all right, but just please raise your hand on the Teams application or interject, and Miranda or I will recognize you, and you can make comments once you've been recognized. And please be sure and announce your full name before speaking. So those are just some ground rules.
Ray, this is Doug. I just want to let everybody know that Helen just joined us.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Helen, welcome. So Elizabeth went through this agenda just now, but I guess, again, we're going to ask that you make a recommendation on this amendment as we prepared it. All right, so all of you know we're here because of the Butte Area 1 Restoration Plan, and that was approved in 2012, as also it was informed by a process plan for which informed the restoration plan. There have been 3 amendments to that restoration plan. The first one was in 2014, and essentially this gave us the opportunity to develop the small projects category. Subsequent to that, in 2016, there was the Butte Area 1 Parrot Amendment, essentially which was a conceptual plan, and then in detail outlined how the parrot tailings could be removed. In 2019, the BAO amendment at that point outlined how that removal of tailings would be paid for. So I think most of you know, it's pretty exciting. We do have a consent decree recently signed for Butte Priority Soils, the operable unit, and that's very helpful because it's going to it details the remedial work obligations by BP, and that's going to give us all more clarity moving forward in terms of responsible parties, what our opportunities are to integrate remediation and restoration. There'll be $20.5 million placed in a Butte Priority Soils account to do work within the Priority Soils unit. This is especially useful because we're now, this 2020 amendment, we have that additional information to inform our opportunities moving forward. All right, so our revisions, which compose the 2020 amendment, these are again revisions to all the 2012 restoration plan, as well as essentially the following amendments. And so all of those inform this 2020 amendment. Our revisions fall into 4 categories, which are technical and administrative revisions, also revisions to allocation of funds that are excess remediation funds from the Streamside Tailings Operable Unit. And we're going to propose a revision for how future reimbursements that might come into the BAO Restoration Fund would be spent. Essentially, the proposal is to modify the categories to the proportion of funds which would go into those categories. So our last revision will outline some changes that will be made to the small projects category and the allocation of remaining funds there. So. All right, so this is the most straightforward. Attachment A in the amendment discusses these administrative revisions. They don't change overall the direction of the restoration plan. They just incorporate additional information about injury, and particularly what we've learned because of the parrot investigations. It also incorporates our information from the 2020 proposed amendment and just some minor clerical corrections. So we'll offer those for your recommendation, as well as the other 3 elements of our revision. First thing that is, I think everybody's aware of is there's a need to interest in revisions to allocating how many the remediation excess from SSTOU would be spent. In the last year, the 2019 amendment, all those funds, those anticipated funds, would go to priority stream restoration projects in Upper Silver Bow, Blacktail Basin, and its tributaries. This goes to specific prioritized actions within those tributaries, and they're generally enhancing water quality and quantity to improve fisheries habitat and other riparian habitats. Those actions are all consistent with the restoration plan and would be completed in concert with Silver Bow other activities in Silver Bow Creek corridor. So 2020, what we proposed is to shift some of those funds. $2 million would remain in the stream restoration category as per the 2019 amendment, but there'd also be $500,000 which would be allocated to the Silver Bow Creek corridor. And with those funds, the Natural Resource Damage Program would look at opportunities we have to integrate restoration with remediation within that corridor under the context of existing proposed work. All right, so this is what that would look like, just visually to draw out that recommendation. It's just 2019, all those funds went to stream restoration as proposed in 2020. Again, $500,000 would go to NRDP to investigate opportunities in the corridor, and then $2 million would go to the stream restoration category. All right, so the next issue, which you brought to our attention of something of particular interest, was how future reimbursements that might come into the restoration funds in Butte would be spent. And I think there's an interest in the council in terms of having inputs, since we anticipate there'll be some reimbursements. We don't know the amount, but the council, as I understand it, wants inputs to where these funds would be spent, incoming funds. And as proposed, 35% would go to work in the Silver Bow corridor. That work would include waste removal in Diggings East, the north side, and the Butte reduction works. All that designed to protect Silver Bow Creek, and ultimately it would give us opportunities for additional restoration. 5%, as proposed, would go to waste area improvements, some additional funds to do work there. And 40% would go to stream restoration category as per the 2019 amendment. So that would be in addition to what we'd be putting in there from the the stream side restoration or excess. So stream side tailings excess. 20% of incoming funds are proposed to go to the recreation category, and that would also be spent for the BAO restoration plan. So we don't have any new restoration categories, but a different allocation of how those funds, incoming funds, would be spent. And this is what the proposal for the 2020 amendment looks like in a table form. Again, we don't know the amount of funds that may come into the restoration fund, but you can see the changes from the 2019 amendment to what's proposed. Spreading out the funds a little bit more was, I think, your intent for the 2020, but we can discuss your interest. So anyway, this is a nice summary of the impact of that revision. The last category of revisions that are proposed for the 2020 amendment would address the small project and how remaining funds would be spent there. The BNRC already made a commitment to spend $100,000 on recreational development, Molten Reservoir, and $100,000 on recreational planning development at the BMX, potential BMX park at the Bonanza dump. So those funds would remain as committed by the BNRC to be used. And then $50,000 would go to the, from the small projects category, from unspent funds, would go to the recreation category to be used in concert with Butte Silver Bow Parks and Recreation to plan additional trails work, possibly some connectivity between existing trail systems or whatever else is seen as the best use of those categories. Again, we'd have some funds that would be going into stream restoration. $193,000 would go into that category. All right, so this is what we put before you essentially as you're outlining really what you'd be making a decision on in terms of this amendment. And you can see, there'd be Yeah, just redistribution of funds from the existing 2019 amendment. And the percentages show percent that would come from the possible remainders. So it would be the existing funds that are listed and whatever incoming is. And we don't know what incoming dollars might be, but by percentage, that's the amount that would go to each category. So this is essentially, I mean, a quick summary of what you're going to be discussing, I assume, this evening. And our next steps, with direction by the BNRC, these are estimated dates. I just want to put that out there, but we thought it would be informative for the BNRC to see what our schedule might look like going forward. If we have a decision tonight to release a 2020 amendment, we'd put that out to public comment as soon as we could, potentially as early as next Monday. There's a 30-day public comment period that would bring us through November 3rd. The Natural Resource Damage Program staff would need time to respond to those comments, make any changes as necessary to then pass forward to the BNRC. So the BNRC would have a meeting to consider our, essentially would be the final draft, so to speak, of a 2020 amendment, and the BNRC would make a recommendation on that amendment. That would be advanced to the Trustees Restoration Council. It's unknown exactly when they'll meet now, but the goal is sometime in early December. The Trustees Restoration Council would, in consideration of the response to comments, as well as your recommendation, they'd make a recommendation in terms of how to proceed with the proposed 2020 amendment. We'd hope that that would arrive on the governor's desk in early December. Again, we've gamed it out as possibly December 8th. The governor would review the proposed amendment and make a decision. So that's an outline of how we could proceed. And I guess I just want to emphasize, this is obviously everything we do is a team effort and is completed with BNRC input. And I guess with that, Elizabeth, I'll leave it to you to guide discussion. Staff's available for any questions, but again, we'd look for a discussion and a motion from the council, public comment, and then a final recommendation. So Doug or other staff members, do you have anything to add? Any additional inputs or corrections or anything that I missed? Oh, hearing none, Elizabeth, I will. Oh, did I hear some?
Oh, this Harley. No, I don't have any ready. You did a good job, and we're here to answer questions as you say.
Good, excellent. All right, Elizabeth, I pass the baton to you as Madam Chair.
Great, thanks, Ray. Thanks for going through that for us. We appreciate that. I will open it up to questions from the council, and maybe we'll start here. Before we go too far, Emmett did join us just a couple of slides in, Ray. So we have a full council of 9 folks tonight. With that, any questions from this room? All right. I do see a question from John Sesso. John?
Yeah, my first question has to do with this $500,000 out of the 2.5 million in Silverbow Creek remainders that are coming back to the BAO fund and then distributed to the mine waste corridor. I forget. I'm not clear on exactly how that or what those funds would be spent on. But for now, I guess my question is, whatever they might be spent on, would that be a decision of the BNRC as proposals are made by the staff to do that restoration planning work? Again, I'm not quite grasping what the 500,000 is intended for, but whatever it might be in the days, months, years ahead, would the staff come to the BNRC, the chair, and present a proposal on how to use those funds, or would they then just become staff funds to do what you decide should happen with them?
Doug, or, I mean, I can jump in if you want. So this is Harley, John. So earlier on in the fall, you know, and in this discussion, one of the requests that came to us as staff and what we were working on to try and accommodate was a preference or a desire on the part of the BNRC or some members to lay the groundwork for potential additional removal actions, perhaps in conjunction with ARCO at Diggings East and Northside in particular, perhaps production works. You know, those plans are not formed yet by ARCO, so we really, you know, it's kind of shooting in the dark. But we're trying to effectuate that objective. At one point, there was a proposal or request that we shift like the entire $2.5 million from SST into that fund, because that's the fund that would exist to support those kind of activities. Our thought is, rather than, you know, putting all of that money into this pot at this point in time, that we should put enough into it to support the preliminary, you know, the technical studies, and you know, if the BNRC, you know, wishes to have a report or even have a role in kind of how we approach that, that's fine. But our thought is that would support that effort. There's a decent percentage allocated to it from the reimbursements too. And then at the end of the day, if we get to the point where there's an actual work plan or design for additional removal, we might have to go back to this plan and juggle some money around if we don't have enough at that time to fund the whole thing. So I don't know if that answered your question, or if not, what more would you like to know?
Well, I guess no, it doesn't answer my question. I see quite a bit of, if you tell me right now that the 500,000 is going to go into the pot so we can take advantage of remedial restoration integrated efforts as we move forward between the CD work and additional restoration efforts, you know, I'm okay with that. But it seems to me that the way it's written is that there's 500,000 going to go into some type of staff planning, or maybe you're going to hire consultants to plan. I'm not sure, but in any event, I'm just advocating for, when those $500,000 are spent or proposed to be spent, that's a decision of the BNRC, and as we move forward. That's my concern today in advocating for this amendment. I want to be sure that, you know, that's what it means. If it means that we pass this amendment and now you and your staff, Harley, have $500,000 to plan and do not have to get BNRC concurrence, well, then I can't support it. So that's where I'm coming from.
Well, I understand, John. I guess my response would be, I think any particular project or area of inquiry, I mean, so it's gonna go like this. I mean, at some point in time down the road, weeks, months, whatever, ARCO's gonna, Josh Bryson and Lauren or whoever are all gonna sit down and start working on their work plans. At that point in time, our understanding of the desires of the BNRC is that you want us to be at the table so that we can participate in those discussions and see if there are opportunities for integration. So there's going to have to be some flexibility for us just to sort of react to those events without having to seek approval. We have no other, I mean, we'd have to hit BAO somewhere for this. I think, if it would give you some comfort, I mean, we would certainly be reporting out, and if there's any, if we were going to hire a consultant to look in something or design something, sure, I think we can probably work that in to circle back with the BNRC.
Oh, okay, Madam Chair, I have another question, but I would be glad to defer to others who have questions, and I can come back to me.
Before we move off of that topic, John, I think that was a really good question, and I'd like to hear if anyone else from the council has some concerns. I will interject quickly that the way I had envisioned that it would go is that as the plan starts to get put together by Atlantic Richfield, that it would come to the BNRC and we could discuss what the plan is and how it is that we could participate. That was sort of my vision of it, and it may be that that we have to look at how this thing is structured a little bit. Maybe we need a little bit more structure to how the 500,000 can be used. Like maybe the first 100,000 could be used for meetings and being at the table, but after that there's a cap to that, and then after that, the council needs to have a plan and be able to participate and say yay or nay whether that's the direction we want to go. But I'll leave that. That's one concept. Any other thoughts on that? Go ahead, sister.
Sister Mary Jo McDonald. And my concern is I don't think we have enough information to base decisions on. I think we need to know what ARCO's plan is, because every time you hear the ARCO's plans, it's in perpetuity. Well, what's in perpetuity? And are they responsible for the caps on the hill that have failed? Do they have to redo it, or are we redoing it with money for revegetation? And it seems to me it's unfair if that's happened up there and it's not being addressed by ARCO. They should not be taking our funds to do what they should have done right in the first place. And I think that when they sit down for all these discussions of what they're going to do or not do, we need more information on the allocation agreement so that we can make some valid decisions with good information. And I'm not sure we have all that information at this point in time.
Both people. I think I see where John's coming from, and I think tell me, John, if I'm wrong, but I think what you want to make sure of is that $1,000 that, however it's going to be spent in the development of the plan, BNRC has input on, has the major input on that, so that we can make the decision based on the information, like Sister Mary Jo said, that we have in front of us.
Yeah, I see that information coming to the council, and it's like a series of meetings, that talk about what the remedy is going to be. Any other comments on that topic before we go to John's other questions? Ryan?
This is Ryan, and I guess I would echo the same sentiments. I know we've given quite a bit of scrutiny to some of the smaller projects, and when we look at those dollar sizes, they're minuscule compared to the $500,000 that it seems we're not quite sure what exactly. So I think some sideboards around that are completely appropriate.
Great, thanks, Ryan. Any other comments on that?
Elizabeth, can I interject for just 1 second? This is Miranda with NRDP. Can I just remind people to mute their mics if they're not speaking? I'm hearing some feedback that might interfere with the recording.
Great.
And this is Doug. I see Dave's on the video and he's trying to speak, but for some reason he's either still muted or he can't speak. I'm not sure.
I think I'm unmuted now. This is Dave Williamson. I guess as kind of an independent, as president of CTEC, I expect to be pretty actively involved as this goes forward as well. So I mean, I think I'll have a little bit of an inside edge, and if things come up that I think are relevant to the BNRC, I can certainly work with NRD and the BNRC to bring those to everybody's attention.
Great, thanks, Dave. All right, John, do you want to go on to your second question?
It's a question about the slide that Ray put up regarding the re-veg. I don't know about the rest of you at home. The only person I see right now is Dave on my video, but I've got my video off. So in this, like the second slide, no, go forward from there. Go forward. One more. Another one. No, we're going. Go into the discussion. Go. Yeah. Okay. Keep going. So go back one. Yeah, right there. Now in this 5% to waste area improvements, as it's so this is the question I have. We're going to be putting 35% of the amount that we might get back from the Butte site account to integrate into the corridor. And if that 35% is kind of holds true, it's going to be, maybe as much as a couple $1 million, a little less, and then 5% only to the waste area improvements. But my first question here is, when we write this amendment, this second one, 5% to the waste area improvements, which I think should be higher, and the top one should be lower. But this conceptual restoration plan, soil amendment placement and seeding, 100 acres, is that the designated project, or is that, Ray, just a catch-all you used for the whole spectrum of activity on source area improvements, native plant installations, tree projects, the whole category? You just shorthand it with soil amendments, because from where I sit, soil amendment placement is going to be the least necessary in the after remedy situation. We're going to have a lot of these caps redone. We're going to have a bunch of areas done that weren't done when the original BAO plan was done. So soil amendment placement and seeding is the least of the spectrum of things we have in this category that we would spend money on. So I would just like some clarity on what you meant by that bullet under the 5%.
And so, John, this is Doug. I'm going to address that since Ray and I talked about this earlier. And so when we got the percentages of how the council wanted the reimbursements to go, there was just 5% to the waste area improvement / revegetation. I talked to Elizabeth, and at that point in time, there wasn't time to go out to the entire council to solicit input. And she, at that point, just indicated to go into that category, because that revegetation or that waste area category has other categories, subcategories within it, and that was one of those categories. It was something that when I put this in and provided it to others here at the program, Jim and Catherine both brought that up, that a lot of this area, as you said, would be addressed by remedy. So it was something that we were going to discuss with the council tonight to see, thinking that there was another appropriate subcategory to allocate that money, those monies to. So you are correct for bringing that up. Thank you. It does need to go. We do believe it needs to go to a category as well.
Right, Madam Chair, for simplicity, it's my expectation as a member of the BNRC that whatever we spend the money on going forward will be a proposal that comes before the BNRC, and we can have our approval opportunity to say, yeah, no, we're in, that's consistent with what we meant in that category. Yeah, let's go. And so I don't think we should spend inordinate amounts of time tonight to specify within. You read the waste area improvements category in the original plan, the 2012 plan. It's got 4 or 5 bullets. It kind of clarifies a number of things. It's been the source of funds for the tree planting program. It's been the source of funds for the restoration ecology support at Montana Tech. It's just as listed in that chart. So there's a number of very worthy projects that belong in that category. And again, I'm just wanting to make sure that when we write this amendment, we're not locking into that particular bullet, but I don't think we have to lock into any bullet tonight. You know, as Sister says, we gotta really see how the implementation of the remedy really works here over the course of the next 5 years anyway, in the implementation period, and pick our spots to complement the remedial actions, which have made great strides, I might add, in the context of native plants and incorporating native plants into the remedial effort, et cetera. But this category is very important to make it even better than that. We shouldn't be trying to decide tonight in the form of an amendment. We should just be deciding tonight how much money we want to put in the category, and then let the process continue. And as we go forward, we'll see proposals on how those dollars will be spent, and then we'll say yes or no then, based on the merits of those proposals. So that's how I see it. So I just bring that question up because that category, in my view, when we get to spending money in the waste area improvements, that's as I said, that's the least of our concerns. More appropriately will be more re-veg efforts, more native plantings, and the like that complement the remedy that is being implemented. So that I would suggest that we just don't have any specificity. We go with the original plan. There's 4 or 5 different things that are outlined in the plan. I don't think that needs to be amended, all that needs to be amended is that our intent to put more dollars in that category, Madam Chair.
This is Doug again, Elizabeth. So I guess on one hand, John, I hear you and I can understand what you're saying, but I do think that it would be good to specify, because there are 4 subcategories in that group. The 100 acres, the soil amendments of the 100 acres, the Butte Silverbow soil testing and placement and tree planting. For all intents and purposes, norms projects, those projects that he's working on, and then the Montana Tech project. It appears what you're saying. In reality, though, the only 2 that are viable would be the Butte Silverbow soil testing and the Montana Tech project, because Norm's going to be done with his project here shortly, unless you wanted to fund another one of those types of projects. But, you know, personally, I think it's better to allocate the funding to something than to leave it unallocated. You know, my recommendation would be to allocate it to the Butte Silverbow and Montana Tech categories if that were the case. But that's just my recommendation on that.
So when I looked at this, Doug did a nice job of kind of mentioning to us, and it's actually table 2 of our handout. If you've got it in front of you, kind of shows the 4 different pots basically that are in this category. And basically, I thought of that Butte Area 1 soil amendment placement and seeding one is sort of a holding pot for money that wasn't going to Butte Silverbow, wasn't going to Norm, or wasn't going to Montana Tech. It's this money that does pretty much what you just said, John, is that someone would come to us with a plan that said, hey, there's this really great project out there. If we had some re-veg money, we could, you know, do this. And then we would allocate that money. So that is exactly how I looked at it. I think if that, in that category, we're saying it has to be in that 100 acres, I think maybe what we need to do is just amend that part of it and say that this is money that's going to be used for seeding and, you know, re-veg or whatever, make it a more general category. But that's what I was looking at was, you know, that this was a general category in re-veg, but not allocated to those 3 projects that we've actually allocated money to. So do we have other comments on that from the council? Sister Mary Jo?
Sister Mary Jo, I guess I still have a question on the mine waste area restoration and then revegetation. I guess when I read revegetation, it means we are redoing something that wasn't complete or wasn't finished or needs to be redone. And I guess I'd like an answer on that. Is that part of that category?
So my understanding of this is the remedy has been defined what they need to do. So this would be restoration. This would be going a step further than what, but the remedy would handle their part of it, and then this is the actual restoration side of it. Tell me if I'm wrong there.
This is Doug. Yeah, Elizabeth, I believe you're correct. And Sister Mary Jo, you know, the revegetation and vegetation could be used interchangeably here. Revegetation is more to me more of a reclamation type of a term where you're taking a site and you're going to add material to it, add new additional growth media to it, and vegetate it. Or you could say you're going to revegetate it. I don't think you need to. We're not going to go up there and on the hill and tear apart the areas or work on areas that are the responsibility of Atlantic Richfield. They have their responsibilities. They have to revegetate or vegetate those areas. What these funds could be used for and what they have for could be used to augment that augmentation of that vegetation and or plant or work on other areas on the hill that do not have sufficient vegetation on them. So, but the remedy is still, we're not taking over responsibility for remedy with this category or with the word revegetation.
Thank you.
Emmett,
No.
did you have something there?
No.
No, okay. Sorry, I thought I saw your hand up. So would it be possible, or is this a good solution to redefine that category as a broader revegetation category that just is sort of a holding spot for those funds?
I don't think we have the ability to redefine that category within the BAO Restoration Fund, Section 3.2.2. But I do think that we could, as John said, we could just put that funding to that category, and how it is spent is to be determined later. Because those subcategories are actually defined in your restoration plan.
Then I guess I would like to hear from the rest of the council. I'm fine with that, because that's what I had kind of intended to do by putting it in that pot. If that restricts it, I'm fine with just putting it in that category, but not in a specific pot. Anyone else like to chime in on that?
I'm good with that.
You good with
I'm
that?
good with that.
I'm good.
I see heads nodding here. Anybody on the phone?
I'm good with that. If what you're saying is that the way it's defined now in the BAO plan stays the same, and then when we receive proposals, then we'll determine yes, up or down, whether or not we should spend our money that way on that particular activity under the general heading and in line with those bullets as they are in the plan. The practical result will be there won't be any proposals to do soil amendments. There'll be proposals to do other cool stuff that we want to get done. And that's just fine with me. And I think that stuff will be well within the four corners of how it's defined in the plan now.
Perfect. I like that. Yeah, that's good.
So can I ask a clarifying question of that to make sure we're all on the same page? So we'd have to rework this. So we'd basically say that this money is to go to that category, the mine waste area / revegetation category. The expenditures to be determined later, but to be spent per the 2012 restoration plan.
I think that works.
Despite your attempt to try to allocate it, Doug, do you think is that a problem?
No, you're correct, John. I think it would work if we especially specify it'd be spent per the BAO plan. Then it would have to be spent within one of those categories to be determined later. So, yeah, that should.
So, Madam Chair, I have a follow-up question right on this slide that's being shared right now. Can I ask that?
Yeah.
So this 3.144559, so the original allocation in that category was 6 million. And is the 2019 amendment, those numbers, are they supposed to reflect what was in the in those categories, in those rows after the 2019 amendment was approved? Is that what this says?
Yes, on this slide, this figure actually shows, or this table actually shows, originally there was a $6 million of this category. This is where most of the money has been spent from the BAO, besides the municipal water system. But so the 2019 column shows that's minus the dollars that were moved to the parent fund, plus it also shows that that is the existing balance, backing out what Montana Tech and Butte Silver Bow have spent since 2012.
Okay. Thank you. And so then, Madam Chair, I would just make this appeal. And I asked for more in my comments, as you know, and we discussed this, that category to me has got a lot of merit in the long term. And I'm appreciative of the placeholder of 5% on monies that might come in from the 20.5 million. But I would just advocate for amongst the group here that having the ability to complement the remedy with restoration dollars in this category we should try to make sure that there's money in the long term, I guess is my appeal, because, and I don't know that the 3.144559 plus 5% isn't plenty. I don't know that. I guess I don't know these numbers well enough, but if there's $3 million in there now, and we're going to add 245,000, which is what 5% of 4.9 million might be, that seems to me to be a pretty good chunk of money for the foreseeable future. I would just sort of reiterate that, keep our minds open, that in 10 years or 15 years when our successors take over, we want to make sure there's always dollars in that category, both for the biggest bang for the dollars in being able to use 10 cents of BNRC money to match 90% of remedy money to get the kind of native species we want planted, and to make sure the ecology program at Tech is in place for the long haul. I think that's a very important category. So I'd like to see more than 5%, but if there's no other support for that, I would just ask that we keep our minds open 10 years from now. Then we might need to put more money in that category, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Do we have other comments from the council on that? Anything here? You guys are you good with 5% then?
Yes.
Okay. I see head shaking here. Anybody on the phone not good with the 5% that we put in this? I don't see anyone else. I agree, John, that we do need to keep in mind what happens in the future, but I think for right now, this gives us money to use out of that fund, gives us an ability to get more in, and then as we kind of see how things go in the next 5-10 years, we still have the ability to move stuff around. When we feel like maybe we've done the rest of what we want to do, I see this as one of those categories that maybe it outlasts the others. So. All right. All right. Do we have any other questions from the council? All right. Seeing none, So I think we have a couple of small tweaks. Would someone like to make a motion on this amendment?
I will move, this is Bill. I will move that we accept this amendment as discussed.
And I will second.
Great. So we have a motion from Bill Callahan, a second from Sister Mary Jo.
All
right, John, go ahead.
John Sesso, I guess I don't know what Bill meant about as discussed. I'm not comfortable putting 500,000 of the 2.5 million into the restoration of the upper Silverbow Creek corridor unless I see some assurance that the BNRC will have a say in how that 500,000, as well as the rest of the categories, gets spent. And I can't support the amendment without that clarification. I don't want to be a bore on this, but you know, there are going to be a lot of people doing a lot of work, including the NRD staff, on trying to implement this plus 35% from remainders. I mean, that's going to be a couple $1 million or whatever 35% of 5 million is, and you know, there's that money, and I just don't get this 500,000. I'd rather put it in stream restoration where it was, where the other 2 million is going, and any planning that the staff needs to do to exact the implementation of restoration with remedy in the corridor comes out of the money that we've already allocated to the projects. So that's just my opinion. I think that the BNRC should have control of all the dollars in the last column on this current slide, and that includes the 500,000. If we're assured that that's the case, then I can support the amendment.
I would agree with John. To date, of all the money we've spent, we've always had control of how it's spent, and to bring in a new phase that where we aren't in control, that isn't what our intent was, I don't think. So I would agree with John as far as how the money's spent, we need to have control of it.
So would you rather see, I mean, we could come up with, what we had talked about was putting sideboards on it. We didn't, I don't think we were very specific about that. We could do one of two things. We could do, as John said, just move it back to stream restoration, or we could leave it where it's at, but have sideboards on it. Is there?
I'm good with either one. I don't think we've ever seen anything so fast.
Madam Chair, this is Harley, if I could weigh in on this. I'm sorry, I heard a lot of talking over, and I'm on the phone because my computer's on the fritz, so it's kind of bad communications. But so again, I just want to make sure everybody's clear. We put that $500,000, actually, you know, at one point in the back and forth over the last couple of weeks or months, there was a suggestion that the entire $2.5 million go into Upper Silverbow Creek, and we suggested that wasn't necessarily the best thing to do. Among other things, we didn't want to put, you know, all our cards on the table if we're sitting down at the table with ARCO, negotiating, you know, we're working on a work plan. You know, we left a $500,000 in so that we could effectuate as best we could what we thought was the desire of the BNRC to, like I said before, be at the table, you know, in these discussions and in the development of these removal plans. You know, and I think that, to my thinking, is a good policy direction for the BNRC to want to go. I mean, we believe removals are some of the best, you know, actions, and if we can augment them, you know, like John says, 10 cents and 90 cents from ARCO, that's great. You know, we do need some flexibility in the program to participate, and, you know, I guess I would not want to get into a rigid thing where we have to convene a meeting, you know, every time Jim needs to go to a meeting with Lauren and Josh. I mean, we've got to have some, and in addition to kind of use a little bit of our professional judgment and expertise to, you know, work on things. You know, I believe the track record is very clear. I mean, if you look back at how we've interacted with the BNRC throughout the project, keeping you apprised at all major junctions, I don't think there's a problem here to fix. I mean, you know, we commit totally to be supportive of. It's our job to be accountable to the BNRC, but I don't know that we necessarily need some rigid sideboards. I guess I'm pushing back against that a little bit. But again, I guess, you know, that's my 2 cents on that.
Thanks, Charlie. Ryan, did you have a question?
I do, Madam Chair. This is Ryan Lynch, and I guess I respectfully disagree partly. And so I would say, I guess I would just make a motion that let's leave $50,000 in there and move the $450,000 to the stream restoration bucket. And in the event we go through the $50,000, certainly staff can come back and let's have a conversation about what that looks like and why we need the additional $450,000.
I would like to hear from the rest of the council, like what you're thinking on this proposal. Somebody have comments?
So this is Doug. I would indicate that the restoration plan, the 2012 restoration plan, lays out a pretty good process for how NRDP is supposed to integrate and work on developing projects and bringing these forward to the council. And that's what we've been doing for the since 2012 under this plan. So I guess maybe would you be more comfortable if we reference the 2012 restoration plan? So basically we'd be spending these dollars per the plan like we have since 2012 to investigate, you know, potential projects and potential, in this case, potential integration of projects. I mean, that's basically what the plan lays out in the implementation, section 6. It does indicate how the NRDP is supposed to work with the council on developing projects.
Great, thanks, Doug. John, did you have another comment?
Well, I just think it's a big number. $500,000 to just do staff work. It is a big number that takes away. If somebody told me that we were going to spend $500,000 and 35% from the remainders to do projects in the restoration of the Upper Silver Bow Creek corridor, I am all in. This is a lot of money. The way it was presented to us this evening says $500,000 for staff to think about the projects that we're going to pursue. And now if I just can't abide that. I just can't say I want to spend $500,000 on planning stuff and not $500,000 on doing stuff. I just can't abide that. And so I don't want to make if this is Harley, this isn't about, trying to put sideboards on staff, but this is about allocating precious dollars to real work in the field and minimizing the amount of work we do in these meetings and in the office. So I just don't know what you would do with $500,000 to sit in meetings to see if we can integrate restoration activity with the remedy, as opposed to actually using the $500,000 to take out more tailings. Or we had a good conversation last time about, paying the unit price for additional tailings removal, doing this, doing that. I'm all in on those projects, but I'm not in on 500,000 going to staff so you can participate in the planning of those projects. And so, Doug, I don't know what to tell you. All I was looking for is, if you're going to spend that kind of money, that you would come to the BNRC and say, hey, we're going to spend $100,000 on staff time to participate in these meetings, or you're going to spend $500,000 to do X, and we get to tell you whether you can or you can't using these dollars. And that's the way I see it. I don't mean to be argumentative. I just can't. The overall amendment, if we're just going to, give the staff $500,000 to essentially do whatever they want to with.
John, this is Harley. I have to address that. I apologize if we presented this in a way that created some misunderstandings. Obviously, we did. I really must say that I think the track record of our staff and our program in being a steward of these funds and being a prudent user of these public monies is impeccable and stellar. And I need to push back against the notion that we're just sitting around going to meetings. I mean, fine, move the money back. I mean, the BNRC and the public expects us to participate, be involved, be expert, apply expertise and judgment. We will continue to do that as best we can. But, we aren't even saying we're going to spend it all, so pick a different number if that makes you more comfortable. But please do, I hope, place some trust and stock in this staff that has done so much for the people of Montana and your community.
I see another hand up, but I don't.
John.
Is that John? Do we have another question out here?
Yes, John.
I meant no disrespect, Harley. I'm sorry you took it that way. That's not my point at all. And, but not once have you, Doug, or anybody, Ray, told me, other than attending planning meetings, on what you're going to spend the $500,000 for. All I was advocating for was that those dollars be brought before, and if you come every quarter or every year and say, hey, we're going to spend, $40,000 on a planning effort so we can be in there in a timely way, we'll say, okay. But it's $500,000. And so I mean no disrespect to you. I'm sorry you took it that way, but I'm here as a member of this committee, and the amendment was on the table, and I'm not supporting the amendment if the 500,000 stays in there undefined, period.
Jim Ford, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to maybe help clarify a few things for you, John. I mean, we all understand, and I think everybody would agree, $500,000 is a lot of money, right? And we want to put as much money into actual restoration projects as possible. I can tell you that for some of the ideas that have been brought up over the last, couple months in these meetings, additional removals at Diggings East or additional controls along the creeks. There's some staff time with meeting with BPAR and EPA and finding out the details of their plans, but really that's not where any of the money is spent. I mean, the money is spent in, say, modeling, the volume of extra material or calculating the additional costs. So when we bring a project back to the BNRC, and that's how it's historically been done, we formulate a project, we bring it back and say, here's how much we think it would cost based on this data and this analysis. We don't necessarily always have those resources in-house, so it's not something that me or one of the other staff can actually perform. But it's usually those things usually don't cost a lot of money. I mean, I looked at this $500,000 as basically a placeholder. I mean, I can give you as something comparable to, we did that preliminary conceptual restoration plan 5 years ago that included the Parrot, Diggings East, North Side, and Blacktail Creek. And I think our total costs there were about $70,000. It's not nothing, but it's certainly not $500,000. So typically we flesh out like options for a concept that we're directed at, that we've discussed with the BNRC, and then we bring back this concept with a couple of options and with benefits, costs, and timelines. And so that's how I would see whatever remains in this category, whether it's $500,000 or zero or somewhere in between. So I know, John, you haven't been part of the BNRC, so you haven't seen like how historically we've gone through things, but I think it's a productive reiterative process. That's all.
And if this is Doug, and I would like to add something. I had referenced section 6 previously, and that's the implementation section of the 2012 restoration plan. And on page 45, the middle paragraph, halfway or 2/3 of the way down through, it says, actually it says during these 4 years, but that's gone by. NRDP shall report to the BNRC on the progress of implementation of the BAO restoration plan. At such meetings, the BNRC may comment on the implementation of the plan, propose changes of how the plan is being implemented. NRDP will consider such BNRC input and work to resolve differences in the opinion of the BNRC. So the plan does provide that the staff does have to come and talk to the council about what they are doing and what they propose to do and seek the BNRC's input on that. So that's where I'm saying is that, if we reference the plan, that does require us to report to the council and get input from the council on how we are spending these funds.
Thanks, Doug. Ryan, did you have a comment?
I guess based on the dialogue and I hope that the staff does. We certainly do appreciate the work that they do and are the benefits of it, both here in the community as well as the state, and are supportive of that efforts. And so there's nothing personal here, but I think that based upon those two comments, both on what Jim said about that it's $20,000, $50,000, $70,000, I think, for the modeling piece, and based on what Doug said about how it needs to be a hand-in-hand conversation with the council. I guess I would ask why the resistance to the change of that money, whether it's either sideboards put on it or a number. And I guess I would kind of harken back to what Sister Mary Jo said, really about ARCO. And until we actually know where ARCO's going, it's tough for us to design models about what diggings we may be talking about or what other removal we may be talking about. And so really, I guess at this point, in my observation, it's a lot of this is a very conceptual conversation, and for us to allocate money is is premature at best. And so I guess based upon really what staff has told us tonight, that they fully intend to walk arm in arm with the council and to make sure that we're in the loop. And conceptually, if there is an area in town that we need to do additional work or modeling or make sure that they actually have the information to sit at the table and represent us, I'm all in. I agree wholeheartedly. But until we actually know what that possibly could be, I would say 500,000 is too much. And I don't mean to belabor the point. I had made a motion to move it to $50,000. I can withdraw that motion if there's no support, but I think the rest of the council, we need to decide one way or the other.
Thanks, Brian. Do we have any other comments on this? So I guess we've got a couple of ideas on the table that I'll try to summarize here. One would be to leave the amount the way it is and look at like a quarterly update on how the money is being spent, or we could reduce the amount of money that's there with a quarterly update, or move the money out completely and keep it that. And my reservation with moving it out is that I don't want to have to update the plan again. I think we need something there, and I have to agree that NRDP over the 10 years that we've done this has been very frugal with our money as far as using it to develop projects. So I will preface this by saying that, but I guess I would like to hear a little bit from the council what you're thinking as far as this $500,000.
So, thanks everyone for the discussion because it was very enlightening. So what Doug said about following our plan in section 6, then that tells me that nothing's going to change, that we still have control over the money. So if 500,000 is the number, we control it, then I would support it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Thanks, Dave.
Sister Mary Jo, and I would agree with that also, because if we leave the 500 as a placeholder, we don't have to have that spent. And if it's not spent, it can be moved down to other categories.
Exactly.
This is Bill. Understanding that we have the oversight and control of the money, then I can deal with that. I can live with leaving that in that category as long as we are the ones that get to make the decision about spending that money. That's the way that I understand it now.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments from anyone on the phone? All right. Would you like to amend your motion?
This is Bill. I will amend my motion to accept this as long as we are assured that we will have final say in expenditure of that $500,000 in that category.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have Emmett seconding that. Any comments from the council? Somebody flashed up there. I can't see who it is.
It's Ryan. I guess just a question for Bill. So before any of that, I guess we would have to see that work plan before any of that $500,000 is expended. Is that correct?
Yes, that's what I'm proposing.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm a little confused by this plan and what do you mean, which work plan? Like a work plan for removal? Is that what you're thinking, or? Because I think, Ryan, what NRDP, what staff was asking for is they need some money to put together that proposal. And is that what you're?
I guess maybe I'm confused, and I guess part of the confusion is I'm supportive of the 500,000 if we have projects in front of us and we can say, yes, let's spend 20,000 on the modeling of this, or let's spend some money on actually measurement of what kind of waste is still here and what needs to be removed at what cost. So I'm supportive of that, but I would need the project details before, and I assume that that's what Bill's amendment was, and so that's why I asked for clarification.
Okay, thanks, Ryan.
That's what my amendment is, or what my motion is so that we, basically what I'm looking at is that we are able to be able to say how those funds are going to be expended. And I do understand that NRD, you know, the towns involved, that they have to involve in developing and helping develop these plans is a necessity, but I look at the history of how NRD and the staff have handled the funds and have asked us every time I've been involved, and I don't have any problems with the way that that's been handled.
Thanks, Bill. I guess my question then would be to staff, does that seem like a workable way to handle this?
Madam Chair, this is Harley. I would suggest giving us a little bit of flexibility, maybe say 50,000, that 500 that, you know, we are able to utilize at our discretion, so that, for example, if Jim gets a call tomorrow, or Ray, saying we're going to have a design workshop with BP and EPA and DEQ, that, you know, I have the ability to give them the green light to participate. So I would advocate carving out a chunk of that, and like Jim said, it doesn't have to be much. Our staff costs are very low, but give us some room to work and maneuver, please.
Thanks, Harley.
Thanks, Harley. This is Dave Williams again. You know, I think what might be useful is if you have meetings, just keep the council informed of what's going on, so that we do have some idea of what it is that's actually transpiring. I think that might give us a little better level.
Thanks, Dave.
And this is Doug again, and I'm going to reiterate that the restoration plan requires us to do that. That's all I'll say.
And you've always been good with that, really.
Thanks, Doug. All right, so where are we at? Do we, so I guess the proposal from Harley was that 50,000 gets segregated, that allows them to work with it, and then the other 450 we need a plan. To summarize, does that seem like a workable, and then, you know, along with the criteria that we had in the plan for staff using the money, which we've always had, does that seem like a workable solution to this $500,000? Can I hear back from the council?
Sure.
Emmett agrees?
Yeah, I agree.
Mr. Bill?
Sounds good to me. Ryan, sounds good.
This is Dave, I agree.
Okay. All right, so would you like to redo that amendment one more time?
Good luck with it. I would amend my proposal to say that we leave $50,000 to the discretion of NRD staff, with the remaining $450,000 to be looked at before it's being allocated.
With the plan.
Yeah, with the plan. Yeah.
Okay. All right, do we have a second for that motion?
Okay.
Emmett's seconding that. All right, we'll open it for discussion from the council. Any further discussion on that motion? All right, any public input on that motion? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 We have 3 ayes here, 4 ayes here. Can I hear from folks on the phone? How about Ryan? How about you first?
Yes.
John? Setho?
Yes.
Helen?
Aye.
And I think we lost John McKee. Did I miss any? Oh, Dave Williams.
Yes,
Okay. The motion passes unanimously. Does this give staff, do you kind of understand what the motion was? Make sure we don't have any questions from staff on this?
This is Doug. I believe we understand. I do want to clarify one question, though, is that in the way Bill, I believe, made the motion, it included that discussion of the recreation dollars are going to be, or excuse me, the re-veg dollars are going to be allocated to the category to be allocated to specific projects to be determined per the 2012 restoration plan. We will add that language to that proposal.
Yes,
Yes.
that was part of the motion. Is there one other thing in this meeting? John, did you have a comment?
I wanted to move on to something else when we're done. I saw in the presentation early by Ray that that there, or maybe it was the handout prior to the meeting where the staff was going to make what they defined as administrative changes to reflect new information. I don't know what those are. Well, maybe they were in the packet, and I apologize if I missed them, but I don't know what the administrative changes are. Attachment A, or incorporates additional information about groundwater injury and minor corrections. Was that outlined in the handout?
Yes, it was. It was attachment A to the handout.
Oh, I missed that.
Do you have, can you pull that up so we can look at it?
You talking to me?
No, I was actually talking to Ray. Thank you.
Oh,
I don't have it electronically.
Hey, do you want me to get it?
I have it here now. I see the attachment A.
So in summary, John, what we did is we added some verbiage to update the plan for additional information that we have gathered. For instance, there's a section in the restoration plan that talks about the injury and the fact that we have collected additional information. Jim summarized that into a couple paragraphs that we would propose to insert into the BAO plan to update that section of the plan because we have additional information. Most of the other changes were minor changes administratively where we, for instance, we said, look at table 4 and it was actually, you're supposed to look at table 3. So we were making those types of corrections.
Doug and Elizabeth, this is Miranda. I can put that up if you'd like.
Brandon, that'd be great. Just have everybody be able to look at it. Thank you.
Okay. Elizabeth, can you see it now?
We can.
So do you want Ray to walk through this?
We to the council, would you guys like to walk through this verbiage? To be vote on it. Yeah. I guess maybe what I'll ask is, does anybody have any issues with any of the verbiage that was part of attachment A?
This is Dave. I looked at it and I was comfortable with the, so.
Right, Dave?
Well, I can't speed read it on this. I'm reading it on the other thing. I'm not prepared to say whether I'm comfortable with this. These are significant changes in my view, and I have to read them before I agree to put them in the plan. So I'll do that as quickly as I can, but I'm not going to do it over this meeting.
Elizabeth, this is Doug again. I would like to note that as part of the amendment that the council already approved, these were attached. This is part of that amendment. So the council's already made a motion and approved this. So if you want to, if John wants to wait, then you might have to do something with your amendment or your approval or your recommendation.
All right, council, would you like to pull this approval and walk through this attachment before and revote?
Elizabeth,
Well,
it looks like John has a comment.
John, go ahead.
This is John Sesso. I was, when I voted on Bill Callahan's amendment, I was voting on what he had to say about the allocation of the dollars, not these administrative technical amendments. If Doug insists that our vote as already recorded is the way it is, then I respectfully ask to change my vote to no then. I did not approve these technical amendments in voting yes on Bill Callahan's amendment. That was not my understanding. These are substantive, significant amendments, and, there was no discussion of them prior to the vote.
They were part of the packet, however, and
Okay, fine. Then I'll just change my vote to no, if that's how it's going to go.
anyone else like to change their vote based on this?
I know the hour's late, but I guess I'm wondering if staff could walk us through this.
I'm happy to do it. And I understand your concerns. So, I mean, I don't want to sign off on anything I haven't read either. So, I'll be happy to walk through these if you all would like. Can everybody hear me? It's Ray Benke.
Yeah, go ahead, Ray.
Okay, so yeah, so I'm just going to start. Does everybody have attachment 1 to the proposed restoration plan?
I do.
Okay, because I know it should be on. I just want to. You'll be easier to track if you have it in hand. So, so I'll just walk through it. And so it says executive summary, paragraph 1. So basically, in this portion, sorry, I'm reading them as I go also. In this portion, it says, essentially, it updates the executive paragraph of the executive summary to account for what would occur within this amendment. So I guess the key line is the last sentence. It would say 2020 amendment to the Butte Area Restoration Plan is designed to reallocate remaining funds in the restoration categories, direct a $2.5 million remainder, and direct expenditure of potential remainders. So we're just updating the language in the 2012 restoration plan to reflect the fact that we'd have this amendment. So that's what's going on this new 2020 amendment. So section 1.21, essentially just Jim wrote out a detailed explanation of what we'd learned in the Parrott amendments. Again, just so that what the 2012 amendment reflects our new knowledge. And really the last points there that are important are the last 4 bullets, which say that the Parrott tailings are the most significant source of contamination. The groundwater plumes from Parrott have migrated into Blacktail and Silver Bow. That we found that the majority of contaminated groundwater is not being captured by the subdrain, and again that the groundwater flow is from the tailings is going into Blacktail Creek and passing the subdrain. So we're just updating the 2012 amendment or 2012 restoration plan with what we know now. Section 3.2.2 on the second page. It's basically just sending people to the new tables, which we have provided, which gives more information on the waste area improvements. It would be slide, well, it actually wasn't one of our slides, but it's within the text of the amendment. If you just take a look at it, I believe it's table 2 or 3. So, but we're just sending the reader to the new table. Same thing with waste area improvements. We're directing the reader to the table that reflects the BAO restoration, the 2020 proposal. So, and same thing in 3.2.3. We're just sending the reader to the new table, which is essentially what you'd be approving in the 2020 restoration plan. So these are just the tables that are showing the allocations of the funds. 3.2.4, it just reflects the fact that there's now a Basin Creek water treatment plant that was completed in 2016 that was not known in 2012 since it hadn't occurred yet. So we just added that paragraph saying, that Basin treatment plant had been built, that the funds came from the restoration funds, etc. 3.2.6. Oh, we literally was, I think prior to, this is a clerical change. Essentially, it says that recreational fund projects should be spent no later than the end of 2016. We're now at 2020, so certainly we're not going to have spent down all the recreational funds. Let's see, 3.2.7. Let's see. This spells out what is in the amendment relative to how the small project funds would be directed. 100,000 to Moulton, 100,000 BMX, 1,900 and 3,000 to stream restoration, etc. And then the last one, 3.2.8, basically just sends the reader again to an updated table. So these, they're necessary updates so that the 2020 amendment, the 2012 amendment, or excuse me, the 2020 amendment, it's clear that it's layered on top of the 2012 restoration plan. So, but that's, they don't change the direction of what this proposal is. They just are reflecting it within the text of the restoration plan. So, anyway, so yeah, that's what that attachment A says, and I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Ray. Any questions? Yep.
Thanks, Ray.
No problem.
Any objections to any of the wording that's in those, or?
I got a problem with some of the language. I don't want to belabor my problems with the entire group. Just going to vote no.
Changes of.
I have a question, Elizabeth. This is Ryan.
Okay, go ahead, Ryan.
So the motion tonight, I mean, the process-wise, what we're doing is moving this out to public comment, and then we'll get public comments, and then we'll come back for final action before we actually move it to the governor?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
All right, I guess then we will update the record to show that John voted against the amendment. The rest of the group, with minus John McKee, who had to leave, voted for the amendment. And we'll get it out there for public review. Any other comments on that? Questions? All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Great. Who is the second?
It's Dave.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Sister made the motion, Dave seconded, we're adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you.